Morning! Sage Sue back to talk more about aging well and owning our aging in positive, meaningful, and empowering ways. There is so much good stuff going on to help us age well right now, so I'm gonna continue talking about this topic, talking about the things that are happening right around us, so we can all learn more about how we can age well and again own our aging in positive, meaningful, and empowering ways. And I'm going to keep talking about the big topic of changeability, one of the 3 pillars of my model for how to thrive with age. Such a big one, such a big one. And there's so much change going on in the world right now, so let's tap into it and learn from it. That's the way I feel about it. A couple weeks ago, because I've gone to bi-weekly videos now, I talked about this big don't for aging well, which is denial. Pretending that aging isn't happening to us and that we don't have to take action because of those changes, either with ourselves or with the people around us. Well, it was interesting to see how this played out in the past few weeks. I think we saw a lot of what goes with denial, anger. And I'm going to use President Biden as an example because he's been so center focus in the press right now and really kind of upholding a lot of the negative stereotypes about aging. So I think we need to dissect it a little better. But it did remind me so often of what I saw with older people who were in denial, is then they got very angry. And then they started really digging in their heels about the changes going on. And that's what we saw him do. Then we saw Sunday, and maybe a surprise, maybe not a surprise, moving on to this next step of acceptance. Now, again, we maybe will never know how much he was pushed into accepting or if he finally came to that acceptance on his own. But the reality is he decided to not run for re-election again, to realize that maybe his time in the White House and even in politics is done, and that he needs to pass the torch to a new generation. Again, no matter your politics, look at the lesson in this and the visibility of seeing someone kind of go through this process. It is sad to see. I mean, I hate to see older people resist and deny the aging process. It's really one of the saddest things you can experience. Something we would never want for our parents, our grandparents, or hopefully for us in terms of how we go out through the aging process. The key is to move from the denial and anger, which is very understandable, into the acceptance, and then to the bigger stage of really responding and participating in the change. And this is how we own our aging, by participating and responding to the changes going on around us. Now, most of us will never give up something as big as being the President of the United States or even being in politics for 50 years. But a good analogy, and some people did use this in the press in the past couple of weeks, is the whole idea of giving up the car keys. Retiring from driving, which is such a big momentous change that so many of us will be forced to go through, again, by choice or by acceptance and willingness to go down this road. And really that's what Joe did. He gave up the car keys to, the White House and to his continued work in politics. And we saw this happen. It reminded me very starkly of a great client of mine. And I wrote about her in this Rethinking Aging and Role Models, one of my 15 mini guides about aging well. She was one of my early clients when I started my living transitions business. She was really one of my guinea pigs. She's somebody I offered a very low price for the work so I could continue to learn the best way to really help people through the transition. And she was a teacher for me, oh my gosh, and somebody I still think about and use as a wonderful role model example often in my teaching and speaking and just talking to people. The key thing I learned from her was when I met her, and she was still, good physical shape. She was still, I thought, very sharp. So it wasn't like she was in great decline. But what had happened is she had a blackout in the Target parking lot one day. and when she was driving, to run a few errands, and she never drove again. She gave up the car keys after that. She retired from driving, and much to the dismay of the people around her. She told me how many of her neighbors said, well, you can keep driving, you can drive close by. She said, which one of you do you want me to kill? Now, she was someone who wasn't just thinking about what she wanted. She was thinking about what she needed to do, both for herself, but also for the safety and good of the people around her. Those are the brave agers to me. Who again, there could have been a stage of denial and anger for her, but it didn't last long. She went right into participation and responding to this big thing that had happened to her. And then that prompted her to move from her home because, again, when you can't drive, things like that, living independently in a single family home gets to be a lot harder. So then she made the decision to move as well. She was widowed, she had kids, but they were living far away. So again, she was really proacting for herself and for her future. Great reminder of how we can do things well. I love this quote about change. Don't wait to see the light before you change. Change as soon as you feel the heat. And that's where when the signs show up, we have to tune into them. When things get rocky or we start seeing slippages or things, we have to acknowledge them. We can't deny them or run from them. We have to fully embrace and go into the participation of that change. That's where our ownership and our power lies, is being in that participation. And also, again, just like Georgina and so many of us, doing what we need to do, not what we necessarily want to do. And this is where I think President Biden really struggled. There were things he still wanted to do, he wanted to continue, but he finally, however, was pushed to realize what he needed to do, which was to step down and to pass the torch. I've had 3 big changes happen to me suddenly this last year. A herniated disc last fall that resulted in surgery, my job cut in May, which pushed me faster into semi-retirement than I was planning, and then a fall a few weeks ago, and that sidelined me the last couple of weeks because I realized I hadn't just sprained my wrist, which is really almost all healed up now, but I also bruised a bone in my left lower leg. That was really painful. And again, it wasn't what I wanted to do, to stop for a few weeks from exercise and really being active, but I had to do that. I needed to do that for my healing. That's how we approach these things and learn from them. So I'll end today with just reminding you, practice, practice, practice. Every time something comes our way, let's practice and use it as experience for how to age well down the road. And we also need to tune into the stories around us, like in the news the last few weeks, and look at, not just as I always did from the time I was a young child, don't just look at the people doing things well, also look at the things people do wrong for aging well and learn from each experience and each story and each role model ahead of us. So hopefully we can be a good role model ourselves down the road. If you're interested in following me, I haven't been mentioning this the last weeks, but you can follow me on YouTube, my YouTube channel at AgeTHRIVE. You can also follow me on my Facebook page, Let's Thrive with Age. So those are the best ways to really tune into these videos on a weekly basis. One last thing, I watched a great documentary last night on Hulu called Ask Dr. Ruth, something I wanted to watch after her death a few weeks ago. She was a spunky, vibrant woman who kept living fully. Looked like, this was done in 2019, but looks like that's pretty much how she lived to the end of her life. Again, a wonderful role model for really engaging in life and not letting go. So that's the other end of it. There are times we get to really stay in the middle of the game, and sometimes we have to back out. We just have to be ready to respond and participate to the changes coming in around us and for us. Okay, that's the video for this week. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Have a great week. Stay cool. We're pretty hot around the country right now, and we'll see you soon. Bye.